What is up, you guys? Thank you so much for tuning in with me today. So I have wanted to film this video for quite some time, and I wanted to answer the question of how important is organic gardening, and is it the most important thing? So we have to ask ourselves, what is the most important thing in the garden? What is the backbone and the foundation and the basic building blocks of the garden? And the answer to that is your soil. Your soil is the most important thing. Why? Because your soil is its own ecosystem. It is a living organism full of living microbiome. You may look at dirt and say, that's dirt, that's dust, that's not alive, but soil is very much so alive, and that's really important to note because it has to be nurtured for your garden. If you don't nurture the soil in your garden, that's like trying to build a skyscraper from the top down. You can't do that. There has to be a good foundation started, and you have to build from the top up. It's easy to get caught up in the idea that you want super healthy plants or big, beautiful, juicy tomatoes, and while both of those things are things that we want to achieve, in order to get those things, you need to nurture your soil. So the backbone of the garden is the soil. If you don't take care of the soil, you're not taking care of the garden. You have to nurture your soil because you have to start with a good, strong foundation. So now that we know what the backbone of the garden is and what is really important and requires a lot of time and attentive care, the question is, what is the difference between an organic gardener and a non-organic gardener? Somebody who gardens non-organically is somebody who uses synthetic fertilizers and synthetic poisons in their garden. A organic gardener uses organic methods. So they use compost teas, they use organic fertilizers, and they do not entertain the use of pesticides in their garden, rather opt for more natural alternatives. I do want to preface this by saying I don't think that if you garden non-organically that you're like a terrible person. I think a lot of times people can be like, it's a my way or the highway type thing, and they can get pretty cutthroat about it, and I think that I just think there's no need for that. I think that know your opinions, know your own mind, know why you believe what you believe, and for those with ears to hear, let them hear. Otherwise, don't cast your pearls before swine. Like, I'm not calling anybody a swine, so just don't take that personally. Okay, great. Glad we had that talk. I would be lying to you if I said gardening non-organically didn't work, because here's the thing. Organic gardening and non-organic gardening coexist in the same world. Why? Because they both work. They both grow plants, they both can grow healthy plants, they both can grow strong plants, and they both can grow a harvest. But the issue comes down to sustainability. For example, plastic Walmart grocery bags work just as well as any paper bag, and a paper bag works just as well as any plastic grocery bag. But are plastic grocery bags sustainable and good for the environment? No. The answer is no. And the same is true of organic gardening versus non-organic gardening. Organic gardening is more sustainable and has been practiced for thousands and thousands of years, as of where non-organic gardening is non-sustainable, and it hasn't been around that long, not to mention the repercussions it can have on our health and the environment. Okay, so to answer the question, why is synthetic fertilizer non-sustainable, we have to understand how it works. So the way that a water-soluble, non-organic fertilizer works, the name brand stuff you pick up from Lowe's or Home Depot or Walmart or wherever you shop, the way that it works is it delivers the nutrients to your plant on a cellular level. It just goes directly into the plant through the water and it delivers the nutrients directly to the plant, and the plant uses what it needs. It uses what you give it. It uses it right up. It doesn't add any to the soil. Problem with the synthetic fertilizer is it's made from the byproducts of the oil industry. That's the issue with it. So while, yeah, it'll work. It'll give you bushy plants if you water with it once a week. It'll give you some nice looking plants. Believe me, I've used it. Gorgeous flowers, gorgeous plants, everything just worked out perfect that year, to be honest, and sometimes I wonder, what am I even doing? I should go back to doing that, but I don't. Every time you water your garden with synthetic fertilizers, you're damaging the soil, and every time you use it, you're making the soil worse and worse and worse, and let's say there's a shortage, you can't get hold of your synthetic fertilizer. What are you going to do? Because you rely on that to give your plants nutrients, because you've killed the life in your soil that, had it been nurtured, would have created food for your plants, but it no longer has the capability to it because everything that was there has been burnt up by the chemicals inside of the synthetic fertilizer. And hear me out first of all, I'm not blaming anybody. I'm not saying shame on you for using these products. That's why I prefaced what I said earlier about non-organic gardening. A lot of people don't know. A lot of people are just living our life. Like, we're just out here living our best life. We listen to people who say they're experts. We have these companies that we trust. But at the end of the day, you realize, geez, I have to do my own research, and you can't trust anybody because anybody can say anything. And if you have a little piece of paper, everyone believes you. They're like, oh yeah, they're certified. They sell some seeds, I guess. I don't know. Gloves. They sell gardening gloves. They are definitely trustworthy people. Now, the last issue is pesticide. What's wrong with pesticide? It's poison. It's pesticide. It's bad. It's unhealthy. It's poison. It's as simple as that. It's poison. And the issue with it, the main issue, amongst other things, the main issue with it is glyphosate, which is the main ingredient used in herbicides to kill grasses and whatnot. And the problem is it's really, really bad for you. It's really, really toxic, and it causes a lot of health issues. And it's not because there's scientific evidence that supports the fact that glyphosates never leave your body. It has nothing to do with that. It's just, there is that information out there. So, do with it what you will. But, there you go. But something I find incredibly interesting, too, as I lay here amongst our California cowpeas. Not cowpies, cowpeas. California black-eyed peas. Okay, black-eyed peas. Is the fact that every single widow that we met here since moving to Georgia, here in the farm country, whose husband happened to be a farmer, they all died of cancer. I think you can obviously glean from the fact that I am not a fan of synthetic fertilizers, and I'm certainly not a fan of poison in using them in commercial agriculture or in your personal home gardens, and I would discourage the use of these things. Chemicals have been normalized in our society as something normal when in fact it is not. According to a study done by the EWG, women on average a day are exposed to 160 chemicals a day. 160 different chemicals every single day, and that's considered normal. And I'm here to tell you it's not normal, it's not good, it's not healthy, it's not okay. I think these are things that should be talked about more than they are, and I just wanted to give a little insight as to, the difference between organic and non-organic gardening is, so you can make informed decisions, because it's hard to make a well-informed decision when you're not fully aware of the pros and cons of the things that you are using in your garden or that you are handling. Now, I went into all of that to say, is gardening organically the most important thing? And should you garden at all if you're not gardening organically? And I'm actually going to say, no. I don't think gardening organically is the most important thing, and I don't think that you should opt out of gardening entirely, even if you're not willing to garden organically. And you say, well, why? Because there is a lot of freedom in growing your own food, and there is a lot to be learned from growing your own food. And I don't think it takes a specific set of skills, but a willingness to learn to grow your own food, and you learn from making mistakes. And I started off gardening non-organically. I would never tell somebody not to garden, because you may garden for years and years non-organically before you discover organic gardening. And everybody's story and everybody's journey is different, and it takes time. And so I would never say there are people who are not capable of growing their own food. You're capable of growing your own food, and you're capable of making your own choices and your own decisions. And I just want people to be well informed in the decisions that they're making, so they can be well aware of all of the risks that come with that. So gardening organically, instead of using synthetic fertilizers, you use crop rotation, you use compost teas, you mulch heavily in your gardens, which is something I don't do, and I think that's why I struggle, is because I don't do a lot of mulching, and I think I'm seeing the effects of not doing that pretty heavily in our garden. I think it would probably be beneficial, and that's something I think I'm going to start trying to prioritize. Because I need something for water retention, I need something that's going to break down and add nutrients into the garden, and I also need something that's going to help act as a slight weed barrier. And then when it comes to the topic of using organic pesticides, that's where crop rotation comes in. Crop rotation helps prevent the same pests from coming to your crop year after year. Hand picking off your bugs is a really effective method, but also using like soap and water sprays or just hosing them off your plants is something that can be done as well, and it's much safer than using something with something very toxic in it. Thank you so much for tuning in with me today. I really do appreciate it. Let me know if you have any thoughts down in the comments. I would love to hear from you guys. I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you all later.